8 hours away. So I've actually driven to go and like, because I'm in a relatively small city. So I've driven up to get my books and then come back. And then you're stuffing envelopes.
Yep.
And, it takes hours and hours. Like it probably takes just like a solid week, like 40 hours worth of time just to fulfill, a couple hundred backers.
All
Hey
right.
guys, welcome to Inside Comics with George McHale. Really quick, if you like this content, hit subscribe and tell a friend about it. Today, my guest is Chris Tadlock. Chris, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, George.
Awesome. So, Chris, you're lovingly referred to as the warehouse warlock at SourcePoint Press,
Yep.
but you have a lot of different roles there,
Yep.
and I'm wondering if you can talk about what do you do there?
Well, at SourcePoint Press, we are kind of a scrappy independent publisher, but we do a lot more than just comics. We also publish board games. So the role I fill is one that is shipping and logistics. I manage the warehouse. As you can see, that's what's behind me here. A lot of our new titles, as things get pulled, sent from the printer, sent out to individual readers and individual stores. We send out to Diamond. So I'm managing a lot of the inflow of new titles and new games and the outflow of games and titles. But that's not all that I do. I also am starting to write, and that's why you're having me on today. And we have a new endeavor that we started with SourcePoint Press that we are trying to partner with small independent authors and artists, creators that have Kickstarters that may need a little help with somebody, guiding their hand in fulfillment. And we want to be an alternative to sinking all of your profits into just fulfilling what you promised people in the first place.
Yeah, I'm super excited about your projects and what you're getting into writing wise.
Mm-hmm.
But I do want to hear more about this Kickstarter fulfillment because I've done a few Kickstarters and um, it's a lot of work fulfilling those things.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so having an option where someone else could maybe handle that for you, that
Yeah.
sounds amazing. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, let me tell you a little bit more about that then. So SourcePoint Press is the comic book arm of Oxeye Media. Deepwater Games is our board game arm. Oxeye Media is just beginning. We literally received the books from our first client today. And I haven't talked to them, so I'm not going to reveal, who our clients are. But they reached out to us because they were ready to fulfill their Kickstarter, and their fulfillment partner backed out on them, basically saying that they were too small. And we think that all independent creators deserve a chance at getting their products and their creations out to eyes that want to view them. So what we have started to facilitate and to build is not just a supply chain, but a service that you can take your Kickstarter, and if you are either completely unfamiliar with it, this is your first Kickstarter and it goes as you planned, say you had a goal of $3,000, $3,500, whatever it may be, and you got 300 backers and you don't know where to go from there. Well, we want to be an affordable option for people to be able to kind of have someone who's been through the ropes before. I personally have helped fulfill over a dozen Kickstarters in just the last year. The other end of the spectrum is what people don't prepare for. If you're wildly successful, you have a Kickstarter that you think, oh, I'm going to set my goal at, $3,000, and you end up making $300,000. Well, most people aren't prepared for that. When you've got a large warehouse and you've got enough hands that you can apply to the situation to package those things, get them out at an affordable cost and not have to worry about the stumbling blocks that an inevitable successful crowdsourced or crowdfunded project will present. Uh, for example, there's a lot of things that people don't factor in: your cost of your packaging, your cost of your tape, your cost of your labels, your cost of, you know, every little, you know, nickel and dime that, you know, it's kind of like, think about it this way. This is a great example. When everybody first moves out of their parents' house into their, you know, their own apartment or into a dorm room at college, the things they forget to factor into their weekly or monthly budget are things like toilet paper, toothpaste, you know, paper towels. Yeah, those are the kind of things that we don't want you to experience the shock of all of a sudden it ends up costing you more than you anticipated because of all of the hidden costs. So tell me a little bit more about what you've experienced, George, or what you've heard from others that have had stumbling blocks with Kickstarters.
Well, for myself personally, they haven't been massive Kickstarters, but it's just a lot of work, and getting all the printing. And here, I'm up here in Canada, and the printer I've used is like 8 hours away. So I've actually driven to go and because I'm in a relatively small city, so I've driven up to get my books and then come back, and then you're stuffing envelopes, and it takes hours and hours. Like, it probably takes just like a solid week, like 40 hours worth of time just to fulfill, a couple hundred backers. So
Easily. Yeah. We do printing both in Canada, overseas, and here domestically in the United States. We're just about 2 hours southwest of Toronto in Michigan. The things I've seen and the concerns with Kickstarters are usually not the things that everybody tells you about. They're the things that no one tells you about, because you can't prepare for everything. When you're talking about just the time associated with stuffing and packing, that's just a tiny piece of the stumbling blocks that you can encounter. The best thing to do would be to find a partner, whether it's us, whether it's someone else, before you launch the Kickstarter, so that you can make sure and factor that in. One of the things that we deal with, we recently had a board game Kickstarter that made in excess of $300,000. We're doing it globally. The problem with globally and making your things available to other countries like the EU and Germany and France, you have VAT taxes and you have other costs that if you don't charge them, you can literally be upside down on all of your packages that go overseas. We have the volume and the experience where we handle, that many different countries that we distribute to, even on, our web store. I sent out packages to probably 7 different countries today. The majority of them are just here in America domestically. We get Canada most commonly. Then we get Mexico. We get worldwide. If you can partner with someone early on, though, and factor that into planning your Kickstarter, and let this not just apply to Kickstarter, but Indiegogo or any other crowdsourced or crowdfunded platform. If you can have someone give you a little bit of guidance beforehand, it's going to be just a lot easier to handle things as you go forward. What's the worst thing you've ever experienced as far as filling a Kickstarter?
Oh, the worst thing? It's not great. I offered to be in issue 2 of a book, like have your likeness appear in issue 2, and issue 2 hasn't come out yet, and it's been like 2 years. So I just feel like dirt about that. So that's probably the worst, but it's kind of out of my control a little bit, because I ended up selling that property to a publisher, and then the publisher hasn't released the issues yet. So
yeah, and that's exactly one of those things that no one can ever tell you or warn you against that happening. because it doesn't happen with everybody. But if you structure your crowdsourced project, from a simplistic angle, you people want to put in a lot of stretch goals. They want to put in really creative things, and a lot of those, they go unfulfilled because people won't buy them at those levels, or you won't hit certain levels, and you'll prepare and plan for a $10,000 stretch goal, and then you make 3, and it's like, well, why did I spend all the time preparing for that if I ended up not hitting it anyway? And that's something that just needs to be discussion. Doesn't necessarily need to be poo-pooed or avoided. You may be in a situation where those particular stretch goals may be beneficial to gathering more backers, but it's the planning, and it's the foresight, and it's the experience that are important. And we here at Oxide Media at SourcePoint Press, because we do so many different Kickstarters, we found that it was the knowledge we had gained is invaluable to a lot of people.
So if someone wants to reach out to Oxide Media about having them help with their Kickstarter, where should they go to ask for help?
Yeah. And great question. At this point, we don't have a formal submission process. So please reach out to me. You can reach out through our Facebook, our Instagram. Just ask for Chris. And what I'll do is I'll sit down with you and let you know if this is something that I can just give you complimentary advice and lead you in the right direction, or if this is something that'll be beneficial for you. If this is something that's beneficial for you, I'll get with the other execs and we'll sit down and we'll write up a proposal for you. And if it sounds reasonable, we'll move forward with that from there.
So you're developing some new properties of your own, and
yes.
you've been writing. I know you created a game and a story in together.
So I got a couple things. In the works. One is Unplugged. This began as a card game that's it's still in development. The funny thing is, it spawned because I was writing all the backstory and the lore in my mind and on my notes and everything for this card game. It really inspired me to write a script. The script is still in the works. It's a little ways off still, but it will become a comic book. It is a cyberpunk political melodrama. Think of it a little bit as Johnny Mnemonic meets Aladdin. I'm super excited about the story because it is something that is familiar yet new. It's something that addresses real life situations that all of us have experienced from one side or the other. And it's a story that's it's easily accessible for someone that hasn't necessarily been into cyberpunk or futuristic things before, because the motif is very accessible. It will, at this point, it's a 3-issue miniseries. So it's not necessarily going to continue beyond that at this point, but if I have the right idea, it may end up being, a series of small story arcs. I'm excited about that one. The next thing I'm working on, actually, I woke up from a dream, and I had a dream about kind of like an interpretation of the flood, the Great Flood, but if it was done in modern times. That led me to begin writing a book called Covenant. Covenant is going to be 3 to 4 issues. It is earlier in its development process than Unplugged. And Covenant, I wanted to kind of dive down and research a lot more into it. So it is a deeper story. And I found a book called Parallel Myths. It's interesting looking at different cultures, different religions, different philosophies. There are a number of things that are synonymous or carry a common thread through them, and the flood is one of them. So it's not just a Judeo-Christian belief. It's not just a Native American belief. This is something that you see in many, many cultures and religions. So what I wanted to start doing is taking those elements from these different beliefs and combining them, and really taking the most unique and thought-provoking pieces of each of them. And I want to create a story that not only is unique in the way it tells the story of the flood, but my idea in my dream was to begin the book black and white. And as the books progress, you introduce more and more colors. By the end of it, you have the full spectrum, or a full rainbow, that signifies the end of the flood.
That's cool.
So yeah, that's I'm looking forward to that. I think that's going to be neat, and I'm looking at personally doing a set of connecting covers that I'm going to paint on traditional canvases and have them scanned in. So I think that'll be cool. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And then you're also working with Brian Silverbacks and the Kara Prime universe. And
yeah,
I'm wondering if you can tell us a little bit about that project, because that's coming up pretty soon, actually.
yeah, that one will actually be hitting Kickstarter in April. Mark your reminders. We'll be posting it soon. It just received approval, I believe. Kara Prime is the universe, and is a sundry characters that were all created by Brian Silverbacks and other people that other creators that he has worked with hand in hand. That title is really kind of a way to not only introduce readers to a brand new ecosystem or universe, but it's also a way to expose the characters he's created to other creators. He reached out to, I believe it's over a dozen. I'm not sure the exact number. I'd have to look back at the title listing.
Is it 17?
Yeah, is it 13? Is that what it was?
17 artists. I interviewed Brian.
See, there you go. See, you're more on it than me. I'm just worried about my story. So we all created 5-page stories. So we took a character that Brian offered us to write a story about. My character is Forecast. Forecast is a character that can control the weather. With the backstory that he had created, it was very concise and very to the point, but it doesn't go deep into the character building. What I wanted to do is make sure that I was true to the character he designed, but at the same time that I gave it kind of my own twist. So I have working with Tom Macchio, and Tom is in the Philippines, and he is doing the pencils for it. I wrote the script, and I'll be doing the lettering, and Brian will be doing the inking and coloring. So that 5-page story you can look forward to in the Kara Prime anthology, coming to Kickstarter in April.
Awesome. Chris, I want to thank you so much for being on Inside Comics. Yeah, you're such a good dude, and I hope to see you again on the convention circuit, hopefully later this year.
Yeah, definitely, George. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks everybody for watching, and keep an eye out on any of my social media accounts. You typically can find me at SC Tadlock, TADLOCK, or at Chris.Tadlock. Or find me on the SourcePoint Press or the Deepwater Games social media, so you can reach out to me there. If anybody does want further information on Kickstarter fulfillment or has any questions there, you can DM me on Facebook, or you can email me directly at chris@oxeyemedia, OXEYEMEDIA.com. And I look forward to hearing from you. And George, thank you so much for having me. I miss seeing you at conventions, and hopefully we return to normal soon, and we can go out and enjoy a meal together. So.
That'd be good. See you, man. Peace.
Awesome. Thanks so much.